Ian, what is going on, brother, man? Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Are you ready to let it rip?
Let it rip.
Awesome, man. Well, Ian, dude, it is an honor. It is a pleasure. You are by far one of our biggest guests we've had on here. So I appreciate your time. I look back in our feed and the story mentions and stuff, and I've been following you since 2020, since the pandemic. You were all over the place. This is one of the OG shirts I bought back in, I think, 2021. Been supporting the brand. I've watched your growth.
That's literally the second shirt that I made. The second one. Yeah.
Dude. And
it's awesome.
It's crazy. I've got like 5 of them. Like most of them have the sleeves cut off. So this was the most appropriate today.
Yep.
But dude, just to watch your growth, it's been an incredible journey to witness and to be part of and kind of tag along. As mentioned on the pre-interview, it's kind of one of those things where you're probably one of the only few dudes I go to for my information. You are my fact checker. And again, dude, I'm extremely honored. I know Mikey's super stoked. I want to dig in today of who Ian was as a kid growing up through high school, where you grew up, what led you down this path of patriotism, and just to grow a brass set of balls, man. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and how you grew up.
Dude, the truth is I do not come from a lot. I've talked about this a little bit here and there, but I had everything that I needed, but I definitely didn't have a lot of the things I wanted. And the way that I grew up was what you would consider more poor. I grew up in a single wide trailer with my entire my family of 7. To give you perspective, and by the way, I understand that this is nothing compared to some of the hardships that other people face around the world. But at the end of the day, it was still enough that it made me never want my kids to have to go through what I did. So, like I said, we had what we needed. My dad worked really, really hard. He worked, 3 jobs at one point. He was a leader in our church. He was also going to school full time, because back then they believed that you have to get a degree to actually be successful in life. All those things, right? And so he's probably the biggest example when it comes to hard work for me, and what has really shaped me as who I am when it comes to hard work and knowing that I need to go out and kill what I eat, But that being said, to give you perspective, in the summer, it was so hot. We only had like a small little air conditioning unit. And if you guys are familiar with a single wide trailer, you have the kitchen and the living room. That's the one size. And I honestly don't even know how big that is. I don't know how many square feet, but it's not big, especially for a family of 7. Yep. But we would block off one side of the house and the other side of the house with curtains and just live in that small area because it was so hot in upstate New York. And that was all we had as far as like air conditioning to keep us cool. And even that was not enough. We were constantly, I remember going to bed at night and just sweating all night long. We didn't even have enough to have like our own fan. We were sharing one massive fan that we called an airplane fan that was at the end of the hallway that you just hoped was going to get a little bit of breeze into the rooms for me and my siblings. In the winter, we did not have enough money to afford to keep the heater on very high. And so we would literally go and buy these massive like Walmart t-shirts or borrow our parents. And there was 2 vents in our little kitchen and living room space in the trailer. Cause again, we did the same thing. We blocked off one side and blocked off the other. So the one side and the other were freezing cold. And then there was just that small part that was actually like somewhat warm. But I'll never forget, we literally would wait until the heat kicked on every, 15, 20 minutes. And we'd run to those vents and throw t-shirts over our legs and fight to see who could sit there with the t-shirt over the vent for the however long the heat was kicked on because it was so cold. I remember every single winter, me and my dad stapling like plastic to the bottom of the trailer so that the air couldn't get underneath. Juice, like we had milk, we had water, we had bread. Juice was a luxury. A snack for me every single day was a tortilla and cheese that I put on the oven. And again, I know that there's a lot of people that have a lot more hardships than that, right? But like it wasn't easy. We didn't have a lot growing up. I think I had 1 pair of shoes for years and years and years. We definitely didn't. I don't come from a lot. I come from a very humble place, I think.
And
But it
out of
taught
your
me.
siblings, are you were you the oldest?
I'm the oldest. Yeah.
So you had the most of the responsibility then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oldest of 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was not easy. And also, this would take a long time to talk about, but my parents were divorced by the time I was 3, my mom and my dad, and my brother was 1. So I have 1 biological brother, and then I have 5 half brothers and sisters. And so my entire childhood, they had joint custody, and everybody that has a divorced parents knows how that goes, especially when they don't get along. I was in and out of child counselors for as long as I can remember because of my acting out and because of all the different emotional issues I was dealing with. On top of that, couple it with my mom, her mental state was deteriorating slowly through a lot of things, abuse, drugs, all kinds of things. And so she is literally diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. And so for a lot of my life, my grandma and my aunts and uncles on my mom's side were actually the ones that basically raised us on the days that we were doing joint custody with my mom, right? When I was 16, my mom actually just left. I got a call one day when I got back from school, and it was my mom, and she was like, "Hey, I'm in Florida." And she left to live with her ex-boyfriend, who was now her boyfriend again, I guess, who was a really, really bad dude. And no word, no nothing, just one day she was gone, and she was there for a couple of years, I think, at that point. And so like I had already dealt with the mental stress of what she was going through and how it projected onto me and what it created in the house and just in my mind in general as a kid. But at this point, it was kind of like, okay, my mom left. Like, my mom's gone. Now, luckily, my dad had remarried, and my stepmom really picked up the ball where my mom dropped it. When I consider my mom now, it's my stepmom, because she's incredible. She's the best of the best. But yeah, I mean, dude, life wasn't easy, and there's a lot more to that. I could go on for hours talking about all the different things that happened. But aside from that, I was also bullied pretty much my entire childhood. I mean, up until I was in about 9th grade, for about 2 or 3 years straight, I was jumped by the same kids almost every single day. Getting off the bus. So it would get to the point where I would actually get off the bus 3 stops early and then run home to try and beat them before they got off the bus and they were able to catch up to me. And a lot of that had to do with, the things that I dealt with, but I was also freaking up until about 9th grade, dude, I was 5'2" and like 150 pounds. Wow. So I was also not the strongest and most tallest and handsomest guy. I mean, I definitely had a little bit of a glow up in 9th grade. I freaking shot up because I went out to Idaho, coincidentally, and framed houses with my uncle, hit my growth spurt at the same time, came back and felt like a whole new person. And, even when I came back, that bullying continued, but it's honestly kind of like the storybook tale where I finally got so fed up and I was like, I learned how to fight. I mean, I got into karate, I got into fighting and learned how to throw a punch the right way and did that. One day they came up to me, I threw a punch at the one guy that just wouldn't leave me alone, and that was it. Like, cool. Knocked him on his ass and boom, that done. That no more of that. Yeah. And it was crazy because it's like they say, like once you hit them, it's like, okay, moving on to the next. Like, bullies only bully the kids that won't fight back, the kids that won't put up a fight. And that goes for not just bullies, but that goes for everything in the world, in society, right? And so that was a really strong lesson that I learned as a kid pretty early on. I mean, 9th grade, but it definitely changed the course of my life because it was kind of that moment where I was like, no one is ever going to do this to me ever again. And I never should have allowed it to happen as long as I did. And it built a lot of confidence along with, not being short and fat anymore. But yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot more I could go into, but that's in a nutshell, that's kind of my story. You know, it didn't come from a lot. Bullied basically my entire childhood until I decided enough was enough. And then things started to kind of change for me.
So with all of that, man, and I appreciate you saying all of it, because I don't think enough people not enough people take the time to say where it all comes from. I think the brand that you have is the most authentic and real once you understand the origin of it, which is the difference between the perception of reality as opposed to reality. The person you are that everyone sees has an origin story of overcome, of strength, of having to go through that process of. How did you go from that guy who finally said enough was enough, you had your grow up, you got stronger, into, say, 2020 when the clothing company came out, you started standing your ground in your political beliefs and really moving forward, creating a voice for yourself? Or when do you believe your voice really started ringing true to where people would get behind it because of your genuine approach and your authenticity?
Okay, so that's a lot. So let me back up and go back to the first thing you said, which was, where does it kind of come from? And I think the best way to address this is I've addressed this different ways before, but I believe that, dude, I spent most of my school career like in a detention room, on a short bus, not because I was like retarded, but because I was a rebel. I hated authority. I absolutely hated it. And I was projecting all of my pain and my fear from the things that I was dealing with in my family life with my mom or whatever else, right? And that projection became absolute rebellion. And so in growing up, I will always remember the fact that, like, if you were an adult, the amount of times that I was told you need to respect adults or respect those or whatever, I 100% ignored that in every single way. And in my mind, it was like, no, I'm going to respect you when you give me a reason to respect you. So there were adults that I absolutely respected. My football coach, I respected the hell out of, because he beat the shit out of me, but he did it in a way where he was trying to make me stronger. And I knew that. And he was also there for me when I needed somebody. So I trusted him and I respected him. That was one adult that I respected. There were a couple teachers also that I really respected because of the respect that they gave me and the way they treated me. I dealt with, I didn't know it at the time, and luckily my parents didn't put me on any kind of medication or anything, but I dealt with a lot of ADHD that I've taken all the way throughout my entire life, but literally, like, almost every single day in a detention room. And in high school, I got suspended from school every single year for a minimum of 5 days, sometimes more. It almost got to a point where I actually got completely expelled from the high school. Fun story. That was during the Jackass times. We all remember those. They were great times.
Yeah.
I literally staged with my buddies a videoed freaking food fight in the cafeteria. Like,
hell yeah.
Like craziness, right? Broke ceiling tiles, freaking damaged property. And then they got me on premeditated, destruction of property or whatever. I never got any charges, but like, that was the first time that I went, that I was like actually afraid of. Okay. I walked out in cuffs. Like I got put in cuffs in high school and walked out in I think it was my 11th grade year. Maybe it was my senior year. I can't remember, but I remember just thinking like, damn, that changes things. Like, this is not a detention room. Yeah. Now I am in jail.
Were you even able to suit up for a football game with the amount of trouble you were getting into?
Yes, because again, my coach loved me. So yes, absolutely, for sure. And funny story too. My Instagram handle. A lot of people don't know this, but Wenster. My last name is Wendt. It's not Wenster. And it has nothing, like, Wenster was my football nickname. My coach would literally call me, it's Wenster. That's what he said, like, when he wanted to get me riled up and fired up to freaking kill someone. And so when I first started making my social media, I was just trying to think of a name, and I was like, oh, I'll just make it Wenster. But what's funny is in 2020, when I really started to blow up, I was like, oh crap, dude, I don't want to be Wenster. Like, that doesn't mean anything. So I tried to change it back to just Ian Wendt. And for probably a week, everybody was like, where did you go? I can't find you. And I was like, ah, crap. So it just kind of stuck.
Funny. I remember now, dude. I remember the last name now. I thought it was your last name for up until, you changed it.
So it's my football nickname. But anyway, so that that spirit of rebellion and not trusting authority and not, quite frankly, respecting any kind of authority until they gave me a reason to respect them, I believe is 100% what has made me who I am, and made it possible, not only possible, but made it like impossible for me to not question authority and to not just take things for face value. Or this person says this, so it must be true. It's like, why? At what point did that become a thing, right?
I have to ask real quick before we keep ripping, why do you think that is so rare now? Because I remember when we were growing up, like we're all ballpark same age. When we were growing up, it felt like everybody was anti-authority. We were all rebels, fucking fight the man or whatever. Why do you think it's so rare and people are so robotic and puppeted now?
Apathy and entitlement. I mean, just straight up, people believe they deserve something before they've done the work to get it, and they're completely apathetic to any kind of authority that is taking over their lives. They're willing to outsource their sovereignty in almost every single way. I mean, seriously, think about the amount of ways that we as humans at this point outsource our sovereignty to technology or to whatever it may be. I believe that that's largely the reason why people have such a hard time questioning authority. It's because they just don't care enough. Because they don't, it's just like COVID. Most people didn't wake up to the fact that COVID was what it was until it encroached on their own lives. And even at that point, how many people just went along with it because it was the easiest thing to do? And the easiest way to understand that is the case, like, because I know that there'll be people that watch this maybe that'll say, oh, that's a generality. No, it's not. Because look how many people were wearing masks in an airport during the height of COVID. It was like literally, I feel like I was one of the only ones that was walking through an airport without a mask. People looked at me like I was an alien. I will never forget that feeling. I'm the only one in a sea of people not wearing a mask. And then you compare that to after COVID lifted. Once the mask restriction lifted, how many people were wearing masks in the airport? Maybe 1 of 10. Maybe if you're lucky, right? That just goes to show you how many people were wearing the mask and complying simply because they were told to, not because they actually felt like they were in danger.
Do you think that, like, with voices like yours, Andy's, even conservative ants, and a lot of the other guys out there who are actually like standing firm on their ground and like saying it for how they truly feel, you're not all repeating each other's rhetoric, but do you think you're starting to see an uptick more of people creating a voice, or do you think it's just another model of repeated parroting?
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, but I believe it's the second. I think I'll be totally honest with you. I think that, in 2019, 2020, it was not acceptable to be a patriot. It was not acceptable to speak out against the authority and the deep state and all these things. That was not an acceptable thing. That was actually very shunned, right? The amount of people that lost their livelihoods during COVID or whatever. Like, you have Ian Smith, who literally refused to shut his gym down and was fined $15,000 a day. And luckily he won. But like, you have Tommy Vex, who was completely canceled out of his entire industry. His entire life was blown up and destroyed, right? So it's like, at a time when it was not okay to be patriotic, a lot of us said, screw you. We love our country and we love our people, and we're going to do what it takes to freaking fight for the freedom that we are guaranteed as Americans. But now I feel like, and I am going to get a lot of hate for this, but it is what it is. We've talked about this multiple times. Me and Tommy and Ian and Andy, all of us have talked about this. The arrows have been taken. Like, the arrows are taken. The patriotic arrows are taken. And now it's okay. And it's not only okay, it's celebrated to be patriotic, as to the point where it's actually been co-opted again. One thing that I always used to say when I built my brand was, I'm sick and tired of the left demonizing patriotism, and I'm sick and tired of the right hijacking it. Yeah. Because that's what was happening with MAGA. And I saw that from a mile away, and I called it out. And I was never part of MAGA, ever. I voted for Trump, for sure, but I never subscribed to this idea of the cult of MAGA, because I knew that MAGA wasn't a movement built with patriots. It was a cult built on loyalty, on loyalism. And that's not what patriotism is. Patriotism is not, this guy can do no wrong, this politician can do no wrong, and I'm just going to stand with this politician no matter. Like, that's not what it is. Patriotism is not love of the government or loyalism for the government or the politicians. It's the exact opposite. It's complete rebellion against the authority that seeks to take your freedom away on both sides. And so I remember talking about that, but now it's the exact same thing. The right has once again hijacked the idea of patriotism. And now if you don't support a certain thing, if you don't support a certain ideology, if you're not in a certain camp, well, you're not a patriot. You're just another doomer. And even in many cases, you're called a leftist.
Yeah.
Like it's the most insane thing. But ultimately what it comes down to answer your question, is I believe that it's just more of the same. I believe that people are building their brands off of the backs of those that have already taken the arrows. And it's because they realize how lucrative it is, and they realize how trendy it is, right? And you can see that, by the way, when you pay attention to the ones who are saying all the things that are safe, but steer clear of the things that now are still dangerous and now we take arrows for. Because I'm still taking arrows, guys. It's just not about patriotism anymore. Now it's about actual patriotism and America first.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's about all the things that patriotism is supposed to stand for. But the most interesting thing that you're seeing too is, and I literally saw this coming from a mile away, which is why I built the brand that I did, and why I've been willing to go through the ups and downs. Because, dude, I'll tell you what, I lost half of my business in 23 when they censored me and they shadow banned me on social media. I went from 40,000 views per story with 100,000 followers to now I have 400,000 followers, and I'm lucky if I crack 15, 20,000 views per story. And that's not just because of COVID. It's because I have been completely throttled. Luckily, I have a strong enough following that it doesn't completely affect me. But that being said, my business was affected. Everything was affected during those years because I wouldn't hitch my wagon to MAGA. I refused. Yeah. Instead, I continued to stay neutral. And I continued to stay in the place of, this is patriotism. It's not race. It's not religion. It's not color. It's not political party, period. And what you're starting to see is that become mainstream. The left, the right, it's starting to create more of a unity. They're not completely united, for sure, but there's definitely more of a unity. And what's so interesting is the two-party system is actually fighting against it now.
Yeah.
Like, the politicians themselves are trying to keep the divide going while the people themselves are actually fighting against it, because we realize, most of us, we're not each other's enemies. Like, we may not agree on everything. I definitely don't agree with the fact that somebody believes they can be a horse, but like, do you? I don't freaking care. You don't agree that I want to carry a gun into a movie theater, but okay, be a horse and I'll carry my gun.
There you go.
Know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's the least of my worries is the fact that a dude wants to play volleyball at this point. I'm sorry, it's the truth. I don't want him to, but like, in the level of priorities, that's the last thing on my priority list. The top thing, stop stealing my money, robbing me blind, and giving it to a foreign country that is murdering people at mass and continuing to bring our country down in every single way. Period. And it's not just because it's Israel. I said the same damn thing during Ukraine-Russia bullshit.
Yeah, like it's the same mass, just in different fucking colors everywhere. I've been spending a lot of time like breaking down the words. So when you look at progressive, what does progressive actually mean without the ideology? Conservative, what does it mean without the fucking ideology? And how did it all get hijacked to need to attach yourself to the color or the party? Why can't we just like, progressive and scalability means you're willing to think outside the box. Conservatism means you genuinely live your life with a set of values that is going to be beneficial for self, family, and community. Why can't those two things like be intertwined if it weren't for the division that's being interjected on a daily basis with an algorithm or what's favored per news station?
Yeah, it's in group versus out group, dude. This is the playbook that they've used for years and years and years and years. They create an in group and an out group, and you're either in this group or you're out of that group. and vice versa. And everybody gets to a point where they're so emotionally attached to their group that they can't see anything else. It's the whole idea of identity politics. Identity politics in the two-party system is destroying us from within. And then you couple the fact that those parties and those groups are also funded by organizations and governments and countries that have zero interest in actually caring about our well-being as Americans. And it's a recipe for disaster. It's why the founding fathers literally said what they said about foreign influence. It's why the founding fathers, dude, most people don't understand this, but the founding fathers did not agree on most things. They freaking dueled each other because they didn't agree on things, right? But the one thing that they did agree on is we don't want to be ruled. We want to be free. We don't want to be taxed. We want to have our own sovereignty as a nation, as a people, and screw all these people that are trying to take that from us. And we're going to take it all by blood, sweat, and tears and whatever it takes. That's what brought them together. But we've gotten to a place where everybody has gotten so comfortable and so apathetic to what's going on around them that they can't see the forest from the trees. They can't see it happening. And this is the cycle. It always is too late by the time that people actually realize what's going on. And that's their game plan. But it starts with creating this idea of in-group and out-group. And you're either part of this or you're part of this. And if you're not part of this or part of this, well, then you must be this. And then they put a label on it, right? Well, if you don't support Israel, well, then you're anti-Semitic. No, I'm not. I don't freaking hate Jewish people. You're retarded. Well, you're a terrorist sympathizer. No, I'm not. I don't want terrorists to blow people up. Like, in what world is that a thing? Well, then you're just a racist. No, I'm not. Well, I don't hate people because they're a different color. I just hate corruption, evil, no matter what color, no matter what religion, no matter what political party. I don't give a shit what you are. If you are evil, I don't like you. And I don't want you to be in my life or in the lives of the people that I care about.
Well, I mean, have you kind of noticed that each side has its own particular buzzword they use to create more hatred, but they also have a particular chosen buzzword that triggers them? It's almost like that's where the psychology brainwash is. You hear a certain word, the light bulb goes off, and it immediately makes you start spouting off these hate terms. And it works for both sides.
Yes, but it is very calculated where it's, I believe, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is like a fact, but I would say that the left uses race far more than the right does, but the right uses religion far more than the left does.
Fact, yeah.
So it's race and religion. Why? Well, because those are the two things that get people the most riled up. I mean, wars have been fought over those two things, simply put. So why do they use them?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to choose something to divide people over, you're not going to choose sports teams, right? You're going to choose race and religion and ethnicity and sex. Like all the things that you tie your identity to.
Well, in the same note, it's if one thing triggers a group, the other group's going to be completely desensitized to it, so they're not even going to like show much care towards it, which just seems almost not only absurd but almost like discouraging or disgusting. You know, I think that's kind of the interesting thing about it too.
It creates a sense of what I like to call selective manufactured activism.
Yeah.
Right? Like I mean, people get upset about what they are told to get upset about. Simply put. I mean, we know this. The media is the enemy, like the mainstream media, now the legacy media with all the influencers, all this kind. Like they manufacture this selective activism because while one person gets super riled up about, I don't know, a black kid getting hit by or getting, shot by a police officer in whatever state, right? They don't have that same activism when it comes to all the black kids that are killed every single day in the inner cities. Like we're beating a dead horse, but that's an exact perfect example of what we're talking about, right? And that's what they do. They activate these people by playing on their emotions and figuring out what is going to trigger them the most. And the scariest thing about it is that now they've figured out how to make an algorithm that does it constantly, that they don't need to do anymore. It literally creates itself, which is also why AI is so scary, because AI is going to create it even more.
Yeah. we discussed pills to pixels when it came from like the brain rot and like the brainwashing of just being prescribed everything under the sun to be able to control you. Now it's all in pixels. Every pixel, every algorithm, everything is all by design. My question to you to change the tone is, what's a real patriot to you now? Like, what is it like? What does it require, and what does it really mean?
I mean, straight up America first. And at this point, almost America only. Like, we need to take care of our own people. We need to take care of our own country. We need to look after our own interests. We need to fix our two broken arms before we try to reach down and pick somebody else up. Like, it's enough is enough. I mean, a patriot at this point is someone who can see past this lobbying and this incessant manufactured divide of the two-party system and the constant lies and manipulation of both parties working for the same interests, which is ultimately, or seems like it's ultimately, to line their pockets, continue to get more power, more money, while we as Americans just continue to be slaves and just continue to swallow it whole, as if it's like what we're supposed to do, right? Like, it's the people that stand up against that. And it's the people who are willing to speak out about that and are not bought off or have any kind of incentive to stay quiet when they know, without a shadow of a doubt, they know that something is wrong. They know that we're going down a path where them and their children and their children's children are going to be affected by this.
So let's reverse engineer it, because I think we can really create some clarity around this. Then what would be the step that you believe a patriot, like a real, like American individual who believes American first, what do they do in their day-to-day lives that isn't social media based, that isn't for the hashtags and the engagements and the likes? Because that's what most people look at nowadays as a person's intent is, well, they're super fucking online popular, but like, how do they live their lives? What do they do? What are they doing in their communities or their families, first off?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it ultimately comes down to our decisions, our choices, and the example that we set. I mean, what is a patriot? It's not just somebody that stands up against the tyranny and things like that. It's somebody who has pride in their country, pride in their people, pride in their culture. And to have pride in your country and pride in your people and pride in your culture, it means that you're living at a different level than most people, so that you can exemplify what it means to have such an excellent culture and an excellent people and an excellent country and an excellent nation, right? You exemplify those things. So what does that mean? It means doing your best every single day to be an example of greatness, an example of an individual that cares about people, an individual that wants to serve others before themselves, an individual that wants to lead. And none of us are perfect. None of us are going to get that right every single time. But ultimately, you know, everybody, the people that want to talk about a physical revolution, it's like, brother, you can't even start a revolution in your own home. You can't even start a revolution with your own body. And you want to, like, the Gravy SEALs and freaking MEAL Team 6 wants to get their guns together and go to the Capitol. And it's like, and then what? And then what? You can't even lead your own home. What makes you think you can lead a country? They can't, and they don't, and they won't, which is why the idea of physical revolution is just stupid, because everybody knows nothing's going to come of that. So how do you do it? It's a cultural revolution that we need, and we need it on the highest levels. We need men specifically to stand up and become the men that they need to be for themselves, for their families, and for their communities, to lead, to create a network of men that are strong and are actually able and willing to stand up against this at mass, okay? Because the main reason why people don't stand up is not because they're afraid of the consequences. I'll tell you that right now. And the way to explain this is, once again, just think about COVID. I got kicked off of more planes than I know. And every single time I got kicked off a plane, I was the only one who was refusing to wear the mask and who got kicked off the plane. But I want you to consider, what do you think would have happened if the minute that stewardess or whoever, the security guard that came on the plane, stood me up and started to walk me off that plane because I refused to wear a mask? What would have happened if 17, 18, 19, 20 other people behind me, 10 people, stood up and also said, I'm not wearing my mask either?
Yeah.
What do you think would have happened? I'll tell you right now, that plane either stays grounded or it's flying with a bunch of people without wearing masks.
Yeah.
But the reason why most people don't stand up is because they don't believe that they have the support behind them. And that comes from the fear that is pumped into people of nobody thinks like I do, right? Most people are actually a lot more rebellious than they say. They're just afraid of showing that rebellion because they don't believe that it's a collective identity. And the reality is Americans are inherently rebellious. It's just the reality. You just rebel against certain things. Some people rebel against this, some people rebel against that, but most people are pretty freaking rebellious. It's just, they don't allow that to come out. And then, you know, dude, it just, the best way that you, I think the number one thing you can do to really show your patriotism and love for your country and for your people is to be an example of people, of who those people want to love and follow as well.
Yeah. Well, and the only time it's really done with anger and rage is when you've allowed it to get to such a point that you're literally angry and full of rage in your own life anyway. I think if a lot of people actually start to rebel in reality, because social media by design since COVID has become a release valve. It gives enough people enough access to bitch and complain to alleviate a little bit of the tension, to feel good about themselves, to not have to go out and actually do anything differently. And I think that's become more problematic than everything. People can go on, they can poop tweet, they can talk shit, they can start an argument on somebody's DMs. And I still to this day, I've never seen an argument won on the internet. So it's just kind of a release valve of stress, which just alleviates people's need to go out and actually do anything different in their own lives. So what do you think needs to happen in a person's like mind to start to make those changes? Because plenty of people are fed the fuck up. But what needs to change in their actions or in their mindsets to actually start creating momentum?
I was going to say something, but I'm going to change my answer. I think a couple things need to happen. Number one, I think self-love is actually a major, major issue in this country and in society. There's too many people that if you ask them if they love themselves, they would probably hesitate. If you ask me if I love myself, I will say yes all day long. I absolutely love myself. I love the person I've become. I love the person I'm becoming. I love the struggles I go through. I love my life. I love my family. I love the opportunities that I'm given. I love myself for sure. There are things that I don't like about myself. There are things that I'm working on, but at the end of the day, I love myself. There are a lot of people in the world that I bet you are not able to say that. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of men that are not able to say that. And that's where it starts, because you cannot love other people unless you love yourself. And ultimately, to answer your question, people need to stop caring so much about themselves and start caring about other people. But again, you have to first care about yourself enough. Like does that make sense? I mean, ultimately, more people need to feel fulfilled when they help other people, not when they're just helping themselves. Because what you're talking about with this whole, online thing, I mean, again, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I am the type of person where, and I said this in 2020, the main reason why I started to do what I did with small businesses during COVID and everything that eventually turned into Official Patriot Gear is because I did not want to just be a political talking head and a conspiracy theorist that just spewed content and information at people all day, every day, and got clicks and likes and engagement. I literally said that so many times. I worked so hard to get to a point where I could actually make a difference in people's lives and actually influence them for good. And so that's what I wanted. And so I realized that a shift needed to be made from just creating content to how do I actually take this platform that I've been given, this gift that I've been given, and how do I give back? And that's when we started raising money for businesses during COVID. That's when we helped them, literally businesses that were going to close their doors one day to the next. We saved them from having to close their doors just because of patriotism. And not one time did any of those people that helped by giving money or resources or showing up at the business and buying food or whatever, not one time did those people ever ask if the business owner was black or white or gay or straight or Democrat or Republican, or if they got vaxxed or whatever. Like, no one asked those questions because that is the spirit of actual patriotism. And so if we could get to that point where most people are just thinking in terms of, how do I help others regardless of who they are, regardless of where they stand, because they're fellow Americans, we might actually have a fighting chance of getting back to patriotism. But until that happens, we're never going to get there. And the unfortunate truth is that most people online are doing it for themselves. It's just the reality. I mean, it is what it is. And you can tell by how many people just make content, but don't actually get out and do anything. They don't stand up when people need help. They don't get involved in disasters. They don't do, any kind of charity work. They don't actually contribute to society. They just spew bullshit online that everybody else does.
Well, I think there's,
I was gonna say, I was generally impressed, dude. So with every guest, I put together kind of like a promo reel, and I was super excited for this. Once you agreed to it, I already got a jump start because I'm gonna make the most magical Patriot like promo reel. Going down the rabbit hole on both your pages, the official Patriot Gear. I've been following you for 6 years. Like I mentioned in the pre-interview, you were a big help. You're one that made me stand up and not wear the mask and wear my shirt proudly. And I was going to make a comment, when I bought this shirt in 2020 or early 2021, I felt so looked down upon from people walking down the street that it actually made me feel like I was a skinhead, that I was out of place. Like I was the abnormal one, but I'm wearing this with pride because I love my country. And I don't want to go down too far, but just to watch how much you have accomplished in 6 years, watching your page grow, the amount of work that you have put in, even some of the clips of you helping the businesses, that is truly what it's all about, man. So I just want to take a moment to shine on that, because watching the growth on both pages and the amount of stuff that you actually have done outside of your home is pretty incredible, dude. So thank you for that.
Thanks, bro. No, I appreciate it, man. I've said this so many times. I literally cannot just talk. Like I can't do it. It's not in me to just sit behind a mic and talk. I will do that because at the end of the day, Paul Revere had to tell people the British were coming, right? That had to happen. People had to hear the announcement first. They had to be aware of what was going on. And that awareness is something I'll never stop spreading. But at the end of the day, like, that's not actually going to move the needle. What's actually going to move the needle is what we're talking about now. It's actual patriotism. And actual patriotism is in the form of helping your fellow Americans, actually getting out there and serving other people and not just making it about you. And yes, you're crazy if you think that by doing that, you're not going to get something out of it. But that's okay. It's okay that I know that when I serve other people, I'm doing it because I know that I'm going to feel very happy and very fulfilled as well, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But too many people feel like they can have that happiness and that fulfillment by just serving themselves. And that will never, ever, ever be the case. Ever. It doesn't create gratitude. It creates selfishness. And when you're able to actually help somebody, when you have somebody look you in the eyes and say, thank you so much, this is how you changed my life. Dude, the amount of gratitude that you feel immediately is like, that is what I am chasing. Okay. And so it's cool when people see me in public and say, man, I'm so glad, like, you woke me up. Thank you so much for your content. That's awesome. But the truth is, it's so much more powerful when I'm involved in something and somebody literally comes up and says, like, thank you for doing this for me and my family. Our lives are changed now. There's nothing like that, right? So, I think that's ultimately what needs to happen. But unfortunately, we've created a society that is so built on, immediate gratification and expediency. I've said this a million times, but everybody wants to say money is the root of all evil. I don't believe that at all. I believe expediency is the root of all evil. Yeah. Money is a byproduct of expediency, just like everything else. Most sins, most crimes are committed with the idea of getting something faster than you deserve it or faster than the work that it takes to get it. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, you're also eliminating others' agency and freedom in order to get it, just because you deserve it faster than everyone else. Expediency is killing us.
You hit the nail on the head with one word when you said when you're of service. Because I think the idea behind being of service has been convoluted with people pleasing because of most people being led by expectations, not standards. The only difference is, like you said, that gratitude. when you're just doing things to people please, there's an expectation of outcome where when you're doing it of service, you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart because you already know who you are, what you do. And I think when people get out of the people pleasing, because Jake and I have worked with creatives across the board, and one of the biggest struggles they face is people pleasing, just saying yes to everything in hopes they'll be more liked, they'll get more attention, the validation will come, because the creative mind is a messy fucking place to live. Yeah, I think the mind in general nowadays is, but we'll focus on the creative. But once we can get them to pivot to being of service, doing things out of the kindness of their own heart, just because of the gratitude that they get to feel, the goodness they get to feel about the service they just gave or the help they were able to provide, it starts to make you yearn for that, which helps you transition from the expectations of what you get to the standards you just live by to be able to do that at more capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. It's funny because as you talked about that, you said you wanted to talk kind of about, we skipped over it, but like what led me to doing all this, it made me think about something prior to me getting loud on social media and like really blowing up on social media and, building Patriot Gear and everything else that came after. I was literally in the door-to-door sales industry for like 12 years. I mean, I knocked doors and sold people satellite TV for 6 full years, every single summer, 4 months out of the year. And eventually I managed a team, decided I hated that. And then for the last years of my career, I literally took over the entire training, sales training, leadership training, and marketing of the entire company. That's a whole other story that would be we'd be here forever. But what it made me think about was the thing that, because I was damn good at selling. Like, guys, this is me tooting my horn. I was damn good at it. I sold literally, and you can ask people too. This isn't just like ask anybody that knew me. I would literally sell virtually every person I talked to. Almost every single. If there was somebody in the home, I was going to sell them as long as they had TV or wanted it. And like, I remember when I built the training program, the number one thing that I would always tell people tell reps was be the needed, not the needy. And when you're in the situation selling someone, the kind of language you use, it needs to be the kind of language that gives them the idea and the security that you're not there for you. You're there for them. So a simple example is, whenever I would teach guys how to like rebuttal, if somebody was like, oh, I want to think about it or whatever, I would literally tell them, stop trying to just immediately go to your go-to sales tactic after that, right? I always used to tell people the best salesmen understand that they're not walking around every single day selling people and talking to them in the process. They're talking to people and selling them in the process. And so one thing that I would always say is just be real and just make it about them, not you. So in that situation, when they say, oh, I just got to think about it, just say, yeah, you know what? I totally get that. I totally understand. At the end of the day, you don't know me from Adam. But let me just tell you, genuinely, my desire is to put you in a better position and a better spot in every way than you were before you let me in your house. And if I can't do that, I will tell you I can't do it and I'll walk away. But I know I can because I've done it for boom, 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 boom. And then you name drop. And it's like that. I use some sales tactics there, right? Anybody that's in sales knows that I use sales tactics. But at the end of the day, all I was saying was what? Give me the chance to improve your life. And if it doesn't make sense, no big deal. But it's about you, not me. What that tells them is you need me. I don't need you. I'm going to benefit from this for sure, but only if you benefit as well. That is the key to service. That's why when people say selling or sales is service, the ones that actually believe that, the ones that actually understand that principle, it is. You are serving other people and you find ways to make it a beneficial thing. But there's all those other people, all those other salesmen, unfortunately, that give salespeople in general a bad rep or sales a bad rep in general because they're not serving people. They're serving themselves. They're just trying to make a quick buck. They're just trying to take advantage of people. In their mind, it's how much money can I make and how fast can I make it? And that is what ultimately set me apart in sales. And I believe has led to everything that I now do. because that is the mindset that I have. Even though a lot of people want to say it's not, and who cares, you have your haters or whatever, but like genuinely, that's my mindset. How can I put people in a better situation than they were before they heard me, got to me, saw me, dealt with me, whatever? And by doing so, I know that I'm also going to put myself in a better situation, because that is the law of the harvest. The more what you put out, you receive.
Well, and that goes back to your expedience and immediate gratification. You know,
100%.
it's especially with like, so social media is a great place for people to learn how to make money really fucking quick. That's not sustainable long term. But playing the long game and actually doing a lot of the work on yourself and just documenting that process is always going to create a whole hell of a lot more trust. So then, I mean, first you have to be able to sell yourself. If you can't believe your own bullshit, this shit's not going to last anyway.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's funny because I'll have people come at me and I mean, you guys have seen this and I'm sure other people deal with it too, where it's like, you make money on social media. You're a grifter. It's like, brother, I do this full time. This is my job. At what point does someone work for free, right? But here's the funniest thing about it. I didn't start making money, which isn't a lot of money to begin with, on social media until 2026. I literally did everything I did for free for 5+ freaking years. I didn't make a dime. No, I take that back. I think Facebook paid me like $25 every few weeks or something like that, right? I was completely demonetized, completely shadow banned, completely censored. So what did I do to be able to make money? I partnered with really cool companies, ones that I believed in, services that I believed in, ones that I knew would actually help people, not just, buy this vacuum or buy this freaking blender or whatever. Like, I partnered with fitness companies, supplement companies, First Form, right? I've been with First Form for years. I partnered with TRT because I knew that I could help men become better and feel better and have better full lives. I partnered with food storage because I knew that people needed to be freaking stocking food. Like, I found ways to monetize what I was doing in a way that served others first, in every single way. And in the meantime, I ate crow for 5+ years and made not a single dime. Luckily now, I'm able to actually monetize my content and I make some money, but it still doesn't put food on the table, right? I'm still just a dad and a husband and a normal dude. I'm not rich. I don't have millions of dollars. I drive the same truck for 4 years. It's freaking cool, but it's not anything special. My wife drives an effing Pacifica. Like, dude, people don't understand the reality of what it actually takes to do this job.
Yeah.
They don't understand. They don't get it, and they never will, and that's okay. But if there's one message I want people to understand, it's just people like me genuinely are trying to do the right thing. And I know that you can feel that. You should be able to discern whether or not the person you're listening to is actually doing it for the right way, the right reason, because you will feel that they're serving you instead of serving themselves.
Yeah.
When I hear your message, I hear the passion. I hear the purpose. I mean, last week when you told me that you were going out of town with the family, I was extremely excited for you because how much work, every time I open Instagram, it's you on there. It's you in a debate. It's you spitting facts. It's you working constantly. Cause that shit, like I wanted to ask, where does a fact checker check facts? You know what I mean? Because you have to put a lot of fucking time into this, Ian. Like it goes without.
Yeah, dude. And I appreciate that. I mean, I'll be honest and I'll be vulnerable right now. Like, dude, we all as men struggle with all the same things. I mean, nobody really wants to admit that. No man really wants to admit it, but we all struggle with the same things. I know that even more now with my men's group. We get into that later. I'm not trying to plug anything, but the amount of men who struggle with feeling like they're not enough when it comes to being a husband and a father is astronomical. But all of us struggle with that. So I also feel like I'm not doing enough as a father and as a husband. So when I get those opportunities to give my family all the time I can, even though there's a lot of times that I still have to do things that provide for my family, like that is ultimately why I do what I do. I do it for my family. This is you can't see it, but this is a picture of me and my boy. And like, he's the main reason I even started speaking up. Because I said to myself, if I don't say something right now about these riots, about BLM, about the corruption, about everything that I know is actually happening that most people don't know, what will I tell him in 10 years from now? When I knew I should have said something. What will I say to him? Will I be able to look him in the face? And I knew I couldn't. And so that's why I did what I did, even though I knew full well, because at the time, by the way, I had 15,000 followers. Like, I was pretty well known in the sales and business space. I was building a decent platform, right? And I was risking burning all that to ground, because also most people don't know this, but I was on social media for 10 years before that, dude. Like, I was the guy that posted every single day, all day long, about fitness and books and inspiration and all the things that I wanted to share with people. And so, you know, I think it's important for people to understand that that is why we do what we do, but men struggle with this. And, you know, I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm lost right now. Say what you said again. Sorry. I got off on a tangent. This is the ADD.
Now I'm thinking about being a better father and husband.
Yeah. But you were talking about the content and stuff. So the fact checking stuff, right? I just wanted to make the comment about my family, which is often kind of a tangent, but they're everything for me. So I want to make sure that, you know, they're the inspiration, man. I'm going to get emotional, but before I do, so it's actually a lot easier than most people think. And the reason or the thing that I do that most people don't is I wait. That's literally it, dude. Like, the amount of people that see a headline pop up from an hour ago and they're like, boom, make content. Yeah. Right? Or something happens that's like crazy and the person's like, immediately stream tonight, get my team on it. Let's do a full stream on this and let's talk about this. It's like that's what's so funny is when people call me out, you know, because I did my hook the way I did on purpose. And if you guys have been following me for a long time, you know that the bet you didn't see this is a very new thing. I've only been doing that for about a year, but it skyrocketed my account. And the reason why is because, once again, I'm taking something I learned in sales, which is you create the impossibility of disagreement. So let me explain. By me saying, bet you didn't see this, right? You can, no matter what, you're going to comment. Most people are going to comment because either you're going to tell me, what are you talking about? I already saw this. I saw it on this person's account, or I saw this or whatever. But did you see my reaction? No, impossible, because I just posted it 2 minutes ago. So you're already wrong, right? Because it's not about the content. It's about me. It's about my reaction. Bet you didn't see this. Number two, you're going to say, I didn't see this. Thank you so much. And you're going to comment on it. You're creating an impossibility of disagreement with that hook, right? And so what's really funny about that is it has basically created the ability to share things that have already happened, that people have already seen, and I know they've already seen it, but with my take and my spin on it, based on the fact that I've now waited. My rule is at least 24 hours, unless it's something like, you know, a strike. If there's a strike in Iran and I get intel from a buddy that's in the military or something, he's like, yo, we just hit it. Different, right? But most of the things that happen in the news, most of the things that happen in general, take about 24 hours to understand what actually really just happened. And that's when I go in and give my advice and my opinion and what I think. I just wait. Most people don't wait. And why don't they wait? We've talked about this entire episode. Why? Expediency. How much faster can I be than everybody else? And what are they thinking of when they do that? They're not thinking of people. They're not thinking of actual awareness. What are they thinking of?
Themselves. They want to be first to market. Yep.
Me. First to market, first to make the money, first to be the person that said it, first one. Every single time. That's all they think about. That's why these media personalities and these freaking propagandists are so incredibly, like, it's so apparent that that's what they're doing, right? They expose themselves on every single level just by simply trying to be the first person. I actually just talked about this on my page too, if you guys saw, about how people will put watermarks on content that's not theirs, right? Like they'll clip a video and they'll put their watermark on it. Why do people do that? There's only one reason. Because they want everybody to think, oh, this is the person. This is the one that did this. This is the guy. And it's like, bro, no, that's not it. You're showing people that you don't actually care about awareness and about truth. You just care about being the first to market. And you're no different than everybody else at that point.
One of my favorite things to discuss with people is our lives behind what everyone has access to seeing. Not getting too specific, but I'm like, Jake's a father. I'm a new father. My son's 3 in a split household, so I have to play that full-time father with only 50% access. And it's kind of heartbreaking. So I love to talk to dads about dad shit, because the most important shit about Ian isn't the following. It's not the output nearly as much as it is the input, what it is you get to do for Ian, what it is that Ian gets to do for his family and for raising his son. How many kids do you have?
2.
2? Okay.
Yep. 1 boy, 1 girl.
And so I think that's some of the most important stuff about people. So what was it in you, like looking at your son and knowing I have to be an advocate for not only his development today, but the future that he gets tomorrow? What was it that you knew immediately needed to be said?
It wasn't necessarily that I knew something needed to be, like something specific needed to be said, as much as I just knew that I knew the truth in my gut. And if I wanted to be able to face my son and tell him that I'm a man of honor and somebody who will speak truth when it's required, that I needed to speak up. And I saw the writing on the wall. I mean, all of us that were really loud in 2020, like that's what we were talking about. We weren't just talking about the riots, and we weren't just talking about BLM, and we were talking about the fact that it was being used to usher in the next 3-4 years of chaos.
Yeah.
And that it was eventually going to lead to all the things that it's eventually led to.
Yeah.
And so ultimately it came down to, like, that's not the kind of world that I want my boy to live in. But also I want my boy to know that I'm the type of person who's going to speak out about it and fight to create the world that I want him to live in. One that's free from all of the, the chaos and the tyranny and the lies and the manipulation and everything else and the divide. Like, ultimately, I just felt a greater sense and purpose. Because, like, if I didn't have Miles, I don't know that maybe, like I said, maybe the rebelliousness in me would have made me say something anyway, eventually. But I don't know that it would have been as quick or as passionate if I wasn't a dad.
Like being a father for me, it taught me the difference between emotional reaction rebellion and logical response rebellion, because they both really come from the same place. But once I looked my son in the eyes for the first time, logical response took over, because I had to care for someone else. And before him, I really didn't do a good job of caring for myself at all. So if I couldn't care for me, first I had to change to be able to care for him. Like, that was my big thing. Was I didn't think I was going to make it that long in life, let alone this long in life. And now that I'm responsible for being a leader and a provider and a protector, I had to lead with conviction, and I had none. Back then, I was just a cartoon character tattoo artist. I was exactly what you would expect a tattoo artist would be. A drop down drunk degenerate who only cared about himself. I would wake up late, show up late, doodle pretty pictures. I already had my bar tab covered, rinse, repeat. We were good to go. And nobody batted an eye at it because it was the expectation. My son taught me standards. I just had to maintain them.
Ian, I want to talk about, and maybe this could lead us off, but like looking back at Miles and looking back at 2020, you've got the brand. Did you ever think it would go this far? Did you ever think you would be, and I'm sure you're far from done, but did you ever think you would be where you are now with, we were talking about the music industry and the amount of people you've been able to go have lunch with an Andy Frisella and kick it with Tommy Vext and be where you are?
No. So that's another thing. Like, when I started speaking out, dude, I had, it was never in my mind that by speaking out, I would get into certain circles or that I would meet the people I did or what. Like, dude, when Andy followed me, I literally didn't even know who he was.
Shit.
I'm not kidding. Like, I knew who Ed Milet was because he had spoken at a conference with me at some like door-to-door conference years ago, but I had no idea who Andy was because as much as I was in that like sales and kind of business space, I don't know. I just didn't know. And so somebody literally told me one day, they're like, dude, Andy Frisella follows you. And I was like, sick. No idea who that is. And then I learned who it was and I was like, damn, that's awesome. And then we got talking and eventually formed a relationship and then led to me going on podcasts and things like that. Right. But like the first people I met were like Tommy and Ian, you know, and DJ. I actually met DJ before I met Andy.
Okay.
Anyway, so like, no, that was never part of my mindset. I was never thinking like, oh, I'm going to go speak out so that I can meet these people. Dude, I had no idea. I had no clue that speaking out would lead to me having the network that I now have. And some of the names that are in my phone right now, like I never in a million years would have thought that. But again, going back to the same thing that we've talked about, right? Why? Because that wasn't my goal. It just ended up being a byproduct of doing it for others, not just for myself. Yeah. And what's so funny, and we've talked about this many times, me and Tommy and Andy and Ian, like we've all talked about this. It's the fact that what's so interesting is somehow the universe like kind of brought all of us that were willing to stand up at this time and speak out and not go along with the narrative and not just comply. It brought all of us together somehow. Like we just found each other. And like the other thing that I tell people when it comes to, you know, meeting people that are famous or successful or whatever, I think what a lot of people don't understand is the really, really successful people, you don't find your way into their circle. They invite you in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's because you're doing something that is worth their time and their effort. And that's why, like, Andy reached out to me because of what I was doing, not because of any other reason. Like, the reason why Andy and I connected was because of what I was building, because I wasn't just the person out there trying to like get into the circles and standing in line to shake hands and take a picture and a selfie with so like that. Just, I was building something. I was doing something. I was actually out there creating something of value and worth. And that's why we were connected. And it's the same way with everything else. So all these people that like, you know, have it in their mind that networking is all about finding your way into these circles. You have it all wrong. The best way to find your way into the circle of the successful people that you want to meet is by going and doing something and focusing all your time and energy on building something and creating something that those successful and those famous people want to be a part of or want to be associated with in some way or form, right? The first time that Andy sent me a picture of him wearing the Patriot tee that I sent him was like validation for this. It was like, okay, this guy's wearing my t-shirt. I'm a nobody, right? Like, I'm a nobody. Why is Andy Frisella wearing this t-shirt? Because of what it stood for, because of what I was doing, not because of, you know what I mean? Like the amount of gifts that this guy gets every single day. Anytime I've been at HQ, his locker is stacks of gifts. So the fact that he took my t-shirt and put it on and sent me a selfie, like, dude, that was like the full validation of like, okay, this is how this works. You build and you create and you become something that those people want to know and want to be a part of, or are willing to give their time to even associate with you. Yeah. It's not the other way around. Everybody has it backwards.
Once that happened, did that just feed the machine more for you just to go bigger, harder, do more, reach more people? Like when you see Andy Frisella wearing your shirt, like what's the next big move after that? Like,
honestly, it's, I think meeting Andy and like doing the podcast and I don't want to make this all about this because I like, man, I'm so grateful for everything that he's done for me and my family. Like I try my hardest to never feel like I am, you know, trying to like peacock because I'm friends with Andy or whatever. Like that's 100% not what it's about. But he is the first person that genuinely made me in my life feel more important than I feel like I've ever made anybody else feel important.
Mhm.
Like it was the first when he invited me in and had the podcast and like they did the locker. And dude, when I walked in HQ, me and my family were on the TV screen and they had all kinds of pictures. And then when they gave me the locker, I don't know if you know how this works, but they deep dive your life and like, dude, everything from they knew that I ate peanut M&Ms on road trips, and they knew that my family and I we like to play Settlers of Catan, and so there was a Catan expansion pack, and there was a bag of M&Ms, and they knew my wife liked to garden, so there's a bunch of gardening stuff, and that was all stacked by this locker with my last name on it, and it was like that moment. I felt like, and it's never changed, by the way. It's literally never changed with First Form. It's the one time in my life where I feel like somebody cares more about me and wants to make me feel more important than I've ever cared about or want to make other people feel important. And so I would say that the like change in me was I realized that I was far more than I originally believed. Like it boosted my confidence, but also just my honestly, my self-love. It boosted it in a major, major way, even more than like when I was younger and I, grew up and fought my bully and all those different things. Like this was kind of the other time in my life where it was like, you're worth way more than you think. You're more valuable than you think you are. And you can do way more than you think you can possibly do. It was meeting him and becoming a part of First Form and having that experience, I think, that ultimately gave me that mindset. Because then from then on, dude, I'll be honest, man, I've met a lot of really cool, successful people. I can literally count on 3 fingers how many people I would trust for business advice, how many people are actually doing what they say they're doing, and how many people live a life that I actually want to live. And Andy's one of them.
Yeah.
The other people that I've met, it's interesting because it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of leveled the playing field for me. Like it made me understand and realize the only thing separating us and all these other people is a decision, time, and effort. That's it. There's no magic sauce. There's no magic, that's all there is. It's just more time, more effort than other people. And that's why they are where they are. And the decision to actually want to become what they're becoming. You make that decision and then you put more time and more effort than other people and you're going to get there. It's just a matter of time, literally.
Yeah.
And Andy was the one that really made me realize that because he didn't treat me like I was lower. He treated me like I was almost on his level, which was the weirdest thing ever for me, dude. I was like major imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And he is the first person that is at that level that treated me like I wasn't just a peon. And honestly showed me that he himself just wants to be a normal dude and wants people to recognize that.
Yeah. I love that. This is going to lead into my last question. I don't know if Mikey has one, but how do I put this? For any man that stumbles across this podcast that may have applied or may have fallen under the mask or weakness back in 2020, but now wants to make a stamp, wants to make a mark, wants to be a better father, wants to be a better husband, wants to be a patriot. What's the best advice for somebody that would like to move into that chapter, that wants to become better?
Good question.
I mean, the reason that you stay silent and the reason why you wear the mask and the reason why you comply is because, once again, you don't believe that you can make a difference, and you're more concerned with safety and convenience than you are going through the struggle and going through the hardship of fighting for your actual freedom. And so ultimately, dude, if that was you, I mean, there would have to be a major radical change over the last several years for you to be able to just say, okay, well, now I'm not that person. Like most of those people are inherently that person, because ultimately it comes down to you need to make a decision that freedom and that the hardship that might come from speaking out, whether that means you're going to lose friendships, relationships, I mean, dude, I have family disown me. I literally lost my job. Like, I mean, I walked away from it, but it was a 12-year career that I made damn good money and I had a great life. And, all that was because I decided to say things that people didn't agree with and weren't okay with me saying and representing them. And so it takes sacrifice. And unless you're the type of person that you're willing to make that sacrifice and you understand that that's what's going to happen, but you also understand why you're making that sacrifice, and that is for a much greater cause, to be free and to create a life where you and the people you love are not going to be subjugated to, the opposite. I don't know that there's an answer for that, dude. I think you have to just decide that that's important. And you have to decide that you're done being safe and convenient. And you have to be willing to make sacrifices. And that's the main reason why most people don't, because they're not willing to make the sacrifices. And what's crazy too is, like, while I went through a lot of hardships and while a lot of things were really, really hard during COVID and during that time, dude, it was one of the best things that I've ever done for myself. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that going into it. My wife literally told me, "You're an idiot. You're going to burn everything you've built to the ground over the last 10 years just because you feel like you have to say something." She literally told me that. And I full well thought it was a possibility that I could literally I could burn everything to the ground, lose my job, and become absolutely nothing if I spoke out. But the desire or the urge, I don't even know if that's the right word, the obligation that I felt to speak out was far greater than the fear of losing everything.
Now that you said that, did you have anyone to turn to when times got tough? Did you have a mentor? Did you have a shoulder to put your head on when you were just probably getting beat the fuck down? Like, did you have anyone like, "Keep going, Ian, let's go, let's keep moving"? Or was this you?
Like during COVID and stuff?
During just you coming up, like, I know there had to be more bad times than good times because that shit was not easy for you. But like, did you have anyone to turn to? Like, obviously your wife's telling you something, you're going to lose it all. People fucking telling you not to do things. Did you have anyone specific that you turned to for help, guidance, mentorship, leadership? That was all you.
I was alone for a long time. Like,
fuck, man.
For probably the first year, I was alone. I had my community. I had my community that kept me going. I mean, when I first started building Patriot Gear, when I was selling the Patriot tee, there was a point where I got canceled. I mean, I got canceled off the platform I was using for being a violent, dangerous organization and promoting hate speech. And I'm not going to say it because there's no point, but at the end of the day, they, like, what was making literally thousands of dollars was completely shut down one night to the next. And I was in the middle of a drop. And I remember getting on and saying, like, dude, I knew nothing about e-commerce at this point. I didn't know I was doing it, like, it was just selling t-shirts at this point. It wasn't even a brand. And I remember getting online and being like, guys, that was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate all the support, but like, they shut me down. There's nothing I can do about this. Like, that's it. I've tried to get it back. I can't. They shut my store down. All the information's gone. The shipping like, everything is gone. And I don't have access to get any of the money. And my community came out hard that night. Literally that night, they were like, no, make another store and let us support you. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so one of my buddies, who is now the guy who I've gone through for fulfillment for literally ever since then, he was like, I know how to create a Shopify. I didn't even know what Shopify was. I was like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And so he made a Shopify, and then we launched, and we did like $37,000 in 3 days. So the answer of who came to my, like, who did I rely on to continue to go and keep going? It was my community. It was the community that supported me based on everything that I was trying to accomplish and everything I was trying to do with the platform and the community that I had built. But I didn't have anybody like it took probably the first year, to really like find mentors or friends that I could rely on. And even then, I would say it was like a few years before I actually reached out to somebody like Andy or somebody and said like, hey, I need help. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need some help. And that wasn't out of pride. It was more out of just like, or fear. It was more out of just, I was just going, man. I put my back against the wall. I knew it needed to be done and I just executed.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I love that, dude. I love that. Well, Mikey, unless you got anything else, man, Ian,
we don't have that kind of time. I would keep ripping for hours. Yeah, dude, I really appreciate your time today. Sincerely.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. And I still want to talk to you about that apron drop, dude. Remember, I had the cooking show and I was like, I was going to get the custom Patriot apron. Do you remember that? We had the talk in our messages. No,
I'm trying to remember, dude. And
it's had to be like 4 years ago, dude.
Yeah, there's no way.
Dude, I made the funniest joke. I made the funniest show because I was doing Shake and Bake with Jake, which was like a fun cooking show for all my fitness clients.
Oh.
And I would wear the apron. I'm like, fuck, I got to get a Patriot apron, dude. And like, I wrote you, you're like, dude, let's get that made. It was funny. But
that is funny. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it. I mean, dude, it's a possibility. I will also say I am I'm kind of in a different place right now with the direct, and I've already talked about this on social media quite a bit, but I've kind of stepped away from the day-to-day with OPG. I'm still the founder. I still have part of the company. It's still mine, but at the end of the day, I've stepped away from the day-to-day stuff and I've turned my focus largely into not only social media, but mainly the men's group I'm building, Modern Exodus.
I'm glad you brought that up. I want to hear about that.
And the reason why is it's everything we've talked about, dude. Like, I wasn't put on earth to sell t-shirts. And unfortunately, it's kind of gotten to the point where, I think people still wear this stuff for the right reason for the most part. But it got to a point where I felt like what I was really doing was selling products to people. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like it was in the beginning. It felt like it got to a point where all we were trying to do was sell the next product, sell the next t-shirt, come up with the next design. And while that's fun, and I love the creative process of that stuff, that's not ultimately what fulfills me. And again, it's not what I want to do. Like, I want to help people. I want to actually do something and make a difference. And yes, for the longest time, wearing that t-shirt made a difference. You're saying it, the one you're wearing, right? But at some point, at one point, it got to a point where, again, the arrows were taken and being a patriot was no longer something that you did because you felt like, the people that wore the Patriot tee in the beginning, they wore it because it was a collective identity with people who felt like they were being cast out, people who felt like they didn't have a community or a home. They felt like they were racists, or they were this, or they were Nazis, or whatever. Like, they found a community of people that had this collective identity of what patriotism actually stands for. But somewhere along the line, it got to a point where, unfortunately, those arrows were taken, that sentiment was gone, and now it's more just, we're wearing cool gear and we're being patriots, and it's like,
is it like a Kardashian wearing the Slayer shirt?
Yeah, dude. Like, I'm not talking down about it. Like, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of great people in the community, and I believe with my whole heart that the original message still stands of what is true patriotism, and it's not partisan, and it's not based on race or religion or color or whatever. But personally, it got to a point where I felt like it wasn't so much about that as it was about coming up with the next design and making the money that you needed. And, I'm not built for that. And on top of that, we haven't talked about this, but, a few months ago, my brother took his own life. He went through a lot in his life, and it got to the point where it's too much, and he took his own life.
Sorry,
and, that really changed things for me. It's not even so much about the brand. It's not even so much about like the day to day. It's more about, I felt a greater desire to help men. and to make sure that I could prevent as many men as humanly possible from not doing what my brother did. And what's crazy is when you actually dig into the statistics. I mean, I'll just give you an example from our group alone. 95% or more at one point when we asked them, when they're at their lowest of lows, 95% or more admitted to at one point wanting to take their own life and almost doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The isolation of men has created what we see now. Like, it's the main reason why we have a lot of the issues we have is the isolation of men. Most men, I don't know the exact number, I forget what the exact number is, but it's a pretty high percentage of men literally don't even have one best friend. And most men don't have anybody they could call in the middle, like at 3 a.m. if they needed something. I want to say that it was like 60% of men done in a study don't have one man that they could call at 3 a.m. if they needed it, who would pick up.
Sad.
And that alone just goes to show you how and why society is the way it is and why men feel so powerless.
Do you think that that's because men have a lack of trust or because they have a lack of belief and worth to another person?
I think it's because there's a very real agenda to make men feel worthless. And I think there's a very real agenda to weaken us, not only by our hormones, but by in every single way. I mean, to make us feel like we're not enough. And again, it goes back to that whole idea of self-love. If you ask 10 guys if they love themselves, I guarantee you 8 of them would say no. Or more. I guarantee it. And because I think that in a lot of ways, we've been told that we can't love ourselves. Because if you love yourself, you're a narcissist, right? If you love yourself, you're just toxic masculine. Or if you love yourself, all you care about is you. It's like, what? When? Why? When did that happen? Right? And I think that that's one point. But I think the other point is just, dude, we have been isolated. Like, the idea of strong men getting together and being able to form a tribe and be vulnerable with each other and talk about their addiction to porn or talk about the fact that, you know, they have this issue or that issue or whatever and feel safe of doing it. Like, it sounds gay or whatever, but creating a safe space for men is something that it's exactly that reason. People look at that and they're like, what do you mean? We've been taught we can't do that, but it's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
We not only can do it, we need it. Men need to be surrounded by other men that are trying to be the best version of themselves. It's the only way that a society can survive.
Yeah.
And they have purposely and they've purposely manufactured this isolation of men and made it so that we not only don't have that, but we feel like it's not okay to have it. And we have to bottle everything up and not talk about it. And I mean, dude, that's why my brother took his life.
We're seeing this a lot more, you know, especially some of our guests. You know, my buddy Jeremy Jackson does men's groups. Kyle's superhuman father just moved his family out of the country and he's doing groups. So I think you're spot on, dude. And I think more people need, like me and Mikey have both been in mentorship now for 5 years. We've helped build businesses, sobriety, faith. We're moving into a whole new demographic, dude. But the most successful men I see now are the ones that put up the white flag and say, I need help. I need to talk and I need a community. And I got buddies that are like, that shit's gay. I'm not going to get on the phone at 5 a.m. and do a prayer group with these guys. And the next weekend they're out getting fucked up and then they have the hangover and then they're, you know, they get to take their vacation once a fucking year from their 9 to 5 and they're miserable. And
That's
the
right.
ones that I'm seeing most successful are the ones that just say, I need help. Where do I start? How can I get involved?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So plug
sure.
it, man. Where can we find this group, dude? I would love to jump in or
ultimately, again, that's why I want to be really clear because I don't want people to think that I'm like talking down about the brand that I built. I still love Official Patriot Gear, and I still am so grateful for everything that it is. And like ultimately what I realized with the death of my brother is just that Patriot Gear was a stepping stone. So we talked about how by me doing what I did, I was able to meet the people I met and create the network that I've created. I never would have been able to create the modern Exodus or have the network that I now have to be able to put that together if it wasn't for what I did with Official Patriot Gear. And even though I thought at the time, so you asked this question earlier, did you think it would become what it's become? The answer is I knew it was going to become something great. I knew it was going to grow into something incredible, but I didn't know that eventually it wouldn't be the thing. I thought it was the thing. I thought that was going to be my thing forever. I didn't realize that it was actually just a stepping stone to get me to a place where I could do everything that I really want to accomplish, which is help people, help men, and hopefully eventually we create a women's group as well, right? But really actually help people and build stronger societies by doing it. I didn't realize that, but that's what it was. And it's a stepping stone I will always be grateful for and something that I will always cherish, right? And always promote. I mean, I wear it every single day, right? So like, anyway, but yeah, the modern Exodus, you can, if you follow the Instagram page, I think it's _modern_Exodus. It's in my bio on my Instagram. And there's a link in the bio of the modern Exodus, or you can just hit me up and I'll send you a link. But it's, there's 2 tiers. There's a paid tier and a free tier. The free tier gets you access to the Discord group and a massive network of men. I think we have like 1,800 men at this point worldwide. There's like 12 countries. And then the paid group, I believe, is like 300, what we call founding members. And they don't only get access to that, but they get, they do chapter meetups every couple of weeks in different states. So I think we have like 13 chapters at this point with presidents and people meeting up. And there's multiple resources. I dumped my entire, I literally gave people the key to making social media content and networking in like multiple modules, video modules. I dumped my entire brain into that. That alone is worth far more than we charge. But it's not just me though. We also have builders. So we have Kawa, who is a tactical expert. So he talks about tactics. He talks about close counter protection. He talks about, medic stuff. Like we have spiritual, we have mental, we have emotional, they're builders. They're basically like coaches, like experts in their field, but they talk about all these different things. And there's video modules. We do 2 Zooms a week. Sometimes we have guests. Like our last two calls ago, we freaking Zoomed my buddy Greg, who was in the Pacific Ocean rowing with 4 dudes from Washington to Hawaii with no motor, no safety boat, nothing. We Zoomed them from the middle of the ocean and learned about hardship and struggle and mental clarity during Men's Mental Health Month. So that was cool. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, dude. And we've done 2 retreats now. The second retreat you guys probably saw was at First Form headquarters. We did a whole 3 days. 3rd day, we went to Andy's farm. He brought out his tank, freaking World War II rifle, presidential treatment at First Form, catered dinners. Like it was incredible. And now we're about to have the next one in August here in Idaho. At a couple, we have a few cabins. We're doing side-by-side tours. We're floating the river. We're playing night games. We're going to freaking play capture the flag in the woods with like 60 dudes, 50 dudes.
Hell yeah.
So it's just, again, the best way to describe it, dude, is it's like a fraternity of men that just want to be better in every single way. And they just want friends.
Yeah.
And are sick and tired of watching everything decay around them and want to be a part of the solution by becoming better themselves, for their families, and for their communities. So you can find it that way. And then obviously my social media stuff, if you guys want to plug that, it's just my Instagram and my Twitter or my Facebook are probably the biggest. Wentster on both Instagram and Twitter. Ian Wendt on Facebook. My YouTube, The Ian Wendt Show. I think I have 18 episodes of my podcast right now. I've been really slacking on that one, but yeah, that's
yeah, brother. Well, I appreciate your time, dude. You're one of a kind.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys having me on and having this conversation. I think it's important for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Stick on for just a minute.